right? The mitzvah of Talmud Torah is really fascinating. We'll try. I have around 15 minutes, 20 minutes to be able to understand what is the mitzvah of Talmud Torah as we approach Mata Torah, right? If you quote the Psukim without looking now at the Rambam, I quoted for you most of the Moniah mitzvahs. The Rambam of Sajja Gaon, Bahag I didn't have on my Bar Ilan, so I didn't give you the Bahag, but the Smak, the Sefer Mitzvahs Katanas, the Smag, you name it. So what are the there's so many different Psukim, I don't know if you've thought about it. I only recently put a lot more thought into it. So what are the different Psukim that you would say, if you were the one, if you were HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kiviyachol, what would you say the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is, and which pasuk would you say? Yeah, Natan, go. Start that again. Say it again. So you just started from V'dibarta Bam. Just speak about it.
Yes.
Okay. V'dibarta Bam. The mitzvah of Talmud Torah is to speak about it, and speak about it wherever you are. Okay. That's fair. Good. Other people have to have thoughts because you went through a seminary. What? V'shinam tam levanecha. Right? And even if you didn't go to seminary, hopefully you went to Yeshiva High School. If you didn't go to Yeshiva High School, hopefully you went to NCSY. They talked about this, or B'nai Akiva, something. You've definitely thought about this, or haven't thought about this. V'shinam tam levanecha. If I had a marker, I actually do have a marker. Right? So far we said v'dibar tamam. Right? Right? We said v'shinam tam levanecha. Yeah, what else? That's it. What else? That's what you would say. Okay. I think that's stating about the worth and the value of the Torah. That is telling me that what I have to do. I'm asking for the definition. What else? Something about Yediat Hashem. Okay. Any other thoughts? Vayayim Shemo. That's Kabbalat Mitzvot. Right? Vayayim Shemo Tishmu Mitzvotay Asher Anochi Mitzaveh Etchem Hayom. That's good.
Just to strengthen the Vishantam Levanecha.
Oh, exactly. Let's go. Yeah.
No, just by the where it says Lamont score, one of the 6 Shesh Zichronot is one to teach also Bivnei Benecha.
Right. So we talked about that's also. You talking about a different pasuk of Odat Levanecha Levanecha?
Yeah.
That's a different pasuk.
I'm saying from the one from
there's one of Odata Levanecha. What? Right, that might be. V'livnei banecha. Right, and right next to it says Yom Asher Amarata. Right, B'fnei Hashem B'choreh.
Should say they would be
maybe not. Right, could be maybe not. Close. It's close. V'samtem. Maybe that one. Or you not maybe.
I'm just saying like a different.
Something al levavecha.
No, but
What? Say it again. Vayu advrei ma'ila asher anochi mitzavcha yom ha'alevecha. Is that right before Vishinantam? Am I right or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Could be the same area. Okay. Good. What else? We said Vishinantam. We've gotten that. Ezra said it 3 times already. We've written it down 3 times. 3 times for Ezra. We wrote it down. Ezra's got it. Ezra's my colleague. I wrote it down. If he says it, I write it down. Even in a blue marker. We're good. I have a lot of respect for Ezra. Works out well. Not that I don't respect you. I should write down what you said also. Right? What'd you say? Vayuad V'rim Ma'ila?
It's fine.
No, I respect you also. It works out well.
It's fine.
It's okay. I have terrible handwriting. Works out well. Something like that. Okay. Anything else? We missed anything else? Well, how about that one? That's a big one, right? Why would you not say that one? Just throw it out there? I think it's important what you say.
Why? Because it. What?
Because why? Right, it's not in the Torah. Where is it? Yoshua. Right? But it's still very good. Still very good, right? Most yeshiva guys, they put it on to their shtender in 1980s. Good. It still happens. They're still shtenders. Good. Very important. Very, very important. Vigita b'yom v'layla. What else? That's very nice. It's not right, but it's good. No, it's very good. It's very, very good. V'ata kipu lachem. Very, very important. Very important. V'ata kipu lachem et hashira azu. Right? Very, very important. The Gemara Nadarim says Shira is referring to Torah. Very, very good. Very good. What else? New Bassin, what do you say? What else is there? You're with Ezra. Mishinata Levanecha. Mishinata Levanecha. There it is. We got number 4. What was that? What was this? Yeah, I think that's an important one also. Lo Yamush Sefer HaTorah Zeh Mipicha. Okay, within all of these pieces, you'll see, just for argument, look now at the Rambam. Just for argument's sake, we'll see that so you see, what is the mitzvah of Talmud Torah? If you skip ahead to the Rambam just for a second, right? The Rambam says, right? Hilchot Talmud Torah. First in his introduction, he says, Shtei mitzvot aseh. One mitzvah, he says, is lilmod Torah. The second mitzvah, which we're not going to get to now, is lechabed melamdeh v'yodeha. But then he looks inside, and first of all, even before you look inside, if you skip ahead to the Rambam, the Sefer Mitzvot, Mitzvah Yud Aleph, he adds one other thing. It's not only Mitzvah Lilmod, but in Mitzvah Yud Aleph, he says he should sivanu Lilmod Chochmat Torah Ulilamda. And in Mitzvah Yud Aleph, actually, who does he quote? He quotes Ezra. V'zeu shenikra Talmud Torah v'hu she'amru v'shinam Talmud Levanecha. V'loshon Sifrei Levanecha elu Talmidecha. Now, the seems to me, at least a small contradiction, because if you look in the Rambam, in the actual Mishnah Torah, right, what does the Rambam say? The Rambam says, after saying that women are exempt from Talmud Torah, he says, Aval Katan Aviv Chayav Lilamdo Torah, Shneimar V'limadetem Otam Et B'neichem L'daber bam. So that's a pasuk we didn't quote, right? What? He's talking about, this is the first halacha. No, you're right. This is how he introduces it, right, Dave? He's introducing it derech the father to the son, and he's quoting v'limadetem otam et b'neichem l'daber bam. But keep going. If you keep limadetem otam et b'neichem right? It's very fascinating. What David's pointing out is that the tzura, the way the Rambam introduces the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, is via the father teaching the son, right? And he goes on, if you want to continue, in halacha bet, kishem shechayav adam lilamed et beno, kachu chayav lilamed et ben beno. Not only do you have to teach your son, but you also teach your grandson. Shneimar V'odata levanecha v'livnei vanecha v'lo beno ben beno bilvad. But everybody, mitzvah kol chacham v'chacham Yisrael l'lamed et kol talmidim. Even though he's not your child, don't think it's limited to just l'madatem otam et b'neichem or your grandson, because b'nei banim hareim kibanim. But rather, everybody, all your talmidim are your children. Shneimar v'shinamtam levanecha elu talmidecha. Before we move on for a second, the Rambam, besides the question which I don't have an answer for, which is in the Sefer, there's two distinctions. Number one is in the Rambam, in the Koteret, in the title over here, he says the mitzvah is Lilmod Torah, versus in the mitzvah Yud Aleph, he says is Lilmod Ulilamed. And I think when people teach this over, they usually say that the proper piece is Lilmod Ulilamed. That is the mitzvah. But the answer, which I don't have yet, is in the Sefer Mitzvahs, he's quoting what Ezra and what David agreed with, V'shinamtam levanecha, as the source. And here he's saying, V'limadatem otam et b'neichem. We'll come back to that in 1 second. If you look at the Yereim, for example, so does the Rambam say that there are separate mitzvot? There's a mitzvah called Lilmod. There are a second mitzvah to teach. Not only that, I'll tell you even more. You could have said, and this is one of the questions that Rav Perlaw asks on Rav Sajigo, he says, according to the Bahag, there should have been a lot more mitzvot. which means you have one mitzvah to learn, you have one mitzvah to teach. But not only that, you have a mitzvah to learn for yourself. You have a mitzvah, v'limadatem otam et b'neichem. If you take it literally, you have a mitzvah to teach your child. And then you should have a third mitzvah, which is what? What Ezra said, which is v'shinam tam levanecha. Right? And what's the difference? When I'm teaching my son, you'll see within the Rambam, I just have to teach him psukim, mikro. Versus v'shinam tam levanecha is a more in-depth, a Rebbe Talmud relationship of v'shilashim, how much time, and the rigidity, the iyun, etc. So it could have been more mitzvot, right? Not just one. For example, as I showed you, for example, the Smak, the Sefer Mitzvahs Katana says it's two separate mitzvahs, one to learn, one to teach. But what's interesting, before we get to the Rambam, which I'll focus most of my time with, but I noticed tonight the Yereim. The Sefer Yereim, okay, in Mitzvah Reish Nun Daled, adds something that I didn't see anybody else add, which is, most people, when we say Yagati Matzati, this is when I was clapping before because I was really happy, right? Yagati Matzati, most people think Amelus is a nice thing. It's a nice thing, right? It's a nice thing. It's a Tanai. Is it something that's part of the mitzvah? Right? We just read the Rambam. We read some of the Rambam. Does Rambam at all seem to reference at all Amelus in the mitzvah? No. Right? Amelus is a nice thing. Right? It's an important medrash tanchuma, if you will, in Parshas Noach about karati brit. You have to sacrifice. But the Yereim is the only person that I saw in Siman Reish Nun Daled that says HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded it to us. And if you saw, the truth is I skipped too early to stop at the Rambam. The Rambam, just go back before you look at the Yereim and make me happy. If you go back, okay, the Rambam in Halacha Gimel says one other piece. After saying you have to teach your grandchildren, he said you have to hire a malamed for your child, right? As opposed to maybe your grandchild. But then he says, Mi shelo limdo aviv. If your father didn't teach you, chayev lelamed, that's what you have to teach yourself. Kishiyakir, whatever that means when you know how to. Shnei amar. Quotes another pasuk. V'limadatem otam ushmartem la'asotam. So we have another pasuk here. That's a pasuk in Vayet Chanan, in Perek Hey. Right? And that's the pasuk that the Yereim quotes. If you go skip back to the Yereim, we'll come back to the Rambam in a second. There's another pasuk, which is it's based on the Gemara Kiddushin. The Gemara Kiddushin says, you have to teach your son. And it says you didn't teach your son. The Gemara says you have to teach yourself or learn yourself. We'll say that in a second. Right? Shnei amar, v'limadatem otam, ushmartem la'asotam. That's in Tvarim Hey, right? Vayet Chanan, right? Explains the Yereim based on this pasuk. This is the source. The Yereim made me very happy. The Yereim says in Siman Reish Nun Daled, She'el Yimidu Yisrael at the Torah Hashem commanded us, V'ya'amlu ba. Part of the mitzvah, according to the Yereim, is Yagati umatzati. Dichtiv Parsha Vayet Chanan v'limadatem otam ushmartem la'asotam. Of course, my computer went dead right now. Right? Which is what? What does he say there? I think it makes a lot of sense within the source. Right? Within the source. Which means that what? As he continues, what does he continue saying? I got it, remember. Which is what? If your father didn't teach you, then what is it teaching me? That what? You have to work at it. Right? You have to work at it. Meaning it makes a lot of sense that amelus would be part and parcel of the mitzvah. Yeah.
Is amelus a subjective thing?
Subjective or objective?
Subjective.
Meaning?
Each person works differently.
That's true. That could be. I mean, he has to give a certain. He doesn't give a shiur there.
Right.
At that point, he doesn't give a shiur. I would ask even differently also, which is, it's interesting that he's saying that that's the source, meaning he skips level 1. Right? He skips level 1 to say that, right, you have to teach your son. And he says the chiyuv is, if your father didn't teach you, that you have to work on yourself. Right? And maybe, again, he might have said because that's the step number 1, which is what Bassett pointed out. It's a little weird. If you were writing the Rambam, you wouldn't have started off to say, what's the chiyuv of Limud Torah? That I have to teach my son. First, you would start thinking about chinuch. Obviously, it's also even more weird. You wouldn't have started off the Rambam in Talmud Torah and say that women are exempt. That wouldn't be the first thing you said also. But putting that aside, which is very important, Right? What are you saying?
No, that you could say, but I just, but yeah, but you're right about why wouldn't you learn yourself? Why teach your son?
Right?
It makes it seem like the only reason why you're learning is just to pass it on. Like,
Beautiful. Give up. That's exactly what we're going to see in the Shitas HaRambam. That's what we're going to say in the Rambam. But before we saw the Rambam, right, the Yereim clearly sees that Yagati Matzati, that's part and parcel of the mitzvah is the Amelus. Now, we come back to the Rambam. Give me a second. And the Rambam, as we saw in most of Perek Aleph, and I brought you a lot of the halachot, the emphasis is teaching. The mitzvah is l'umod lamed to the point that the limud is what? My own learning is for what? Really just a function of teaching. Really just a function of teaching. To the point, Rav Soloveitchik made an unbelievable deal. In Halacha Gimel, I was like fumfering it, right? Which is that part of the Gemara. It says that if my father didn't teach me, what do I have to do? In proper English, what would you have said? If my father didn't teach me, then I have to go learn myself, right? That's what the Rambam should have said. Right? I have to go learn myself. My father didn't teach me. I have to go learn myself. But what is it? I have to go teach myself. Because the whole point is what? The whole point is that the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, according to the Shitas HaRambam, is I have to be able to learn, obviously, but that's all what? Just a hechatimtza. It's a means to be able to pass on the Masorah. A means, one more second, to teach others. To the point that Rav Chaim Brisk had an unbelievable case that was brought to him. If you look at the Rambam in the next halacha, I think, right, since I'm doing it for now from by heart, he says, Gemara in Kiddushin says that if you have the choice between father and son, right, father and son, you have money, right, and one of them have to learn. So who goes first? The father goes first, except if the son is a prodigy, right? He's a big masman, he's a discerning fellow, if you will. He's a smart person. So the case happened in Lithuania, or in Brisk, I don't remember which one it was. In Lita, I think it was in Lita, but I don't remember. Actually, I can look it up. I actually brought it with me. So Reb Chaim had a question in Brisk, that the father and son both needed a Malamed. And the Malamed could only teach one of them. So like we just said, it seems to be Halacha Mefureshet, right? That says he should go before his son. They came in front of Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim said the son comes first. How could that possibly be? Even though the father was a bright guy also. It's against the Gemara, against the Rambam. But Reb Chaim, in his brilliant psak, explained as follows. He explained he knew the father. He knew the nature of the father. As much as he was very bright. He said, as much as you're going to teach the father, he's not going to be able to give it over to the next generation as much as the son's going to. He knew the father, he knew the son. Therefore, he explained in that case that Limud Torah of the father takes a back seat to the Mesiras HaTorah of the son. The son gets a greater level. The mitzvah of Limud is just Lilamda, it's Bnei Yisrael. And therefore, the Talmud Torah that we have is something to pass it on. So just to, I guess, conclude, right? This comes back to the piece also, which is part of the Talmud Torah. Not only just learning by yourself, according to Shitas HaRambam. We saw the Yereim. The Bahag says all these different things were different mitzvot. I'm going to get your question right after I finish concluding. Thank you for your patience. It could be that that's as much as the Rambam says there is one level of your father teaching your son, having an amazing piece of what Talmud Torah is, but the Gemara and the Rambam also talks about the grandfather. The grandfather also has this mala vodatal vanecha v'lenei vanecha yom asher mata lefnei Hashem lakecha b'chorev. Could be that has a higher level, at least one level, experience of Talmud Torah, because part of Talmud Torah is the passing on of generations. As much as the father and son is one generation, obviously the grandchild is that much more linkage from Har Sinai straight on. That would have a higher level of Talmud Torah. Yetzvik.
maybe
Thank you for your patience. Go.
maybe being able to fully understand Torah as supposed to, maybe the only way is through me learning it, then afterwards by me teaching someone else. Because if I have to teach someone else, I need to know everything perfect, as opposed to when I learn, sometimes like I can tell myself, I understand, plus minus everything, but still, whenever you're supposed to teach someone else, you make sure that you know it much better than.
Right. So that's what I would say. You definitely know it better. I wouldn't say perfect. I'm a good example of not knowing things perfectly, but exactly. I would say that's definitely that's the shot of the hechitim to help you teach. So we hope everyone has a beautiful Matan Torah experience, a beautiful Matan Eretz Yisrael experience with your Tish Tu B'Shvat next week. Where
Tomorrow.
what's tomorrow? No, next week. Right. Tu B'Shvat is tomorrow night, not next week. So definitely celebrate and go to the